Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto manga review. This one's going to be for chapter 53, which is called That's Reality, and what a chapter this was. I think simply for like the last handful of pages, how much the direction of the story has changed. How in just a few pages, a few events happening, they ruined so many theories about this is the way it has to go. And suddenly the story has taken a different direction to get to the ultimate goal of the first chapter of Boruto, the first episode of Boruto, the Boruto Kawaki fight in the future, that we thought was one thing for the last while with Ishiki in play, now seemingly is something very different. You have to give this chapter credit for the crazy sort of fake outs and big events that it did. I think the chapter is still a little bit slow perhaps at the start. It maybe still doesn't use its page count as effectively as it could, in that I think this chapter could have accomplished a bit more than it actually did, but you have to praise the big hype moments. They're just, I suppose, the general Boruto manga issues that still remain. But this was still a fantastic chapter. That's the key point I want to get across here. So I think with this chapter, we just have to get straight into it. We have to get to the ending stuff so we can get into the discussions, the theories. So cover page here, a nice full color shot of Kawaki, who obviously ends up being a bit of the star of the show in this chapter. So that's really nice to see. And then, yeah, he has just arrived on the battlefield here. And we get Ishiki greeting him here. So I suppose this is like their first time meeting, with Kawaki finally knowing who he is. That Jigen is actually Ishiki Otsutsuki. And that's kind of significant in that sense. We do cut back to Amado and Shikamaru and Katasuke and so on. And they're like, what's going on? What just happened? And Amado's opinion on this situation is that if Kawaki has gone to the battlefield, then we're out of options. We're done for. So in his mind, it's like that this all rests in the hands of now the 5 people on that battlefield. So that's really cool. So anyway, this is where we get some inner dialogue from Kawaki. He's like, this is him. Otsutsuki Ishiki. He wants to implant another karma mark in me. And Ishiki notes he only has 5 minutes of life left, and he can't believe that these characters, these failures, have driven him into such a corner. He remembers what Amado said, Kawaki, that you need to waste his time. If we make him run out of life before he implants you with the karma mark, we win. That is what he has to accomplish here. So can he get 5 minutes out of this? He's happy that he has the opportunity, that he's going to get to see him, his life ending for good. But no, Ishiki's just like, no, I'll resurrect because I'll have your body once again. So Naruto asks for Kawaki to run away, but Ishiki just stamps Naruto in the stomach. Baryon mode goes away completely at this point, but Naruto's still pretty active, as we'll see for most of the chapter. Like, he's still on the ground, like, nearly unconscious, but like, he doesn't seem in as bad of a state as you'd expect given the setup for Baryon mode. So yeah. So Naruto's out of action for a little bit here. Kawaki does indeed run away following Naruto's orders, but Ishiki's so much faster. He grabs him by the throat here. Don't struggle, it'll be over in a flash. And he's just about to activate the karma mark inside of him when all of a sudden, switcheroo, Rinnegan swap technique. Suddenly Ishiki is holding on to Sasuke. He's done the swap out technique, and Kawaki is a bit further away from Ishiki than he was before. So Sasuke screams at Kawaki to pick up the smoke bomb at your feet and throw it at your feet. So he does that, and it looks just like a normal smoke bomb, but Ishiki has the Byakugan. How is this going to be of help? And this is where we get the idea that Sasuke points out, you're the fool, Ishiki. It's a mineral dust that obstructs clairvoyant powers. It only lasts a few minutes, but that's all we need. So he can't actually just see through all of this smoke to find him. And he sort of panics at this point because he's only got minutes left. And now all of a sudden, on this rocky battlefield, he has to sort of just chase after him, not really knowing where he is. And there's a lot of smoke that's come out of this smoke bomb. So, I wish there was maybe a little bit more setup for this thing. I can't remember if this was set up before, but I suppose it roughly makes sense. Sasuke has been doing a lot of sort of investigation, hunting of Otsutsuki related stuff. The fact that he'd come up with some countermeasures for all of their abilities makes sense to me. So he flies up into the air to try and get a better view, but just screams Kawaki because he can't immediately spot him. And we're in this situation now where Ishiki's in full control, but he's got minutes left. Sasuke's on the ground, more or less not able to move. Naruto's on the ground, not really able to move. And Boruto, they have not cut back to, but is basically in the same spot. So it's Ishiki and Kawaki for now. So this is where we get the situation. He runs away, he's staying away. Ishiki realizes the only thing he can do is play on Kawaki's emotions. He goes back over to Naruto, and he's like, two can play this game. And he basically, the situation we get is he threatens to kill Naruto. If you don't come back in 20 seconds, I will kill Naruto. Will you be okay with, you being responsible for the death of your beloved Hokage? That's the situation here. And this is great because it plays on this dynamic of, we know that Kawaki, does view Naruto as sort of a father figure, and Jigen has in the past talked to Kawaki as if he is his father figure. So it's this kind of conflict between Kawaki and his opinions on his two father figures in his life. So we get a flashback here to Jigen trying to hunt him down when he ran away at one point when he was younger, and he has the kind of chakra rod thing out preparing to punish him, and we see he's clutching on, Kawaki is clutching onto his sort of fake arm, the one that Naruto gave him, the one that's powered by Naruto. Even though it's not working at this point, he's holding on to it. The countdown gets to 10, and he remembers what Naruto said to him. Let's just say you remind me a lot of me as a kid, and that makes me want to take care of you. And he's like, okay, in that case, would you mind training me in Nujutsu maybe? And yeah, Naruto says, all right then, you're my student starting today. So we get the setup that Kawaki actually knows some jutsu here. We know what decision he's going to make. He's not going to let Naruto die. And as he gets to 1, Kawaki steps out, reveals himself to Ishiki. Ishiki flies straight over, but Kawaki counters with a pretty small, but one-handed fireball jutsu. I guess that's what it is, or just some sort of fire style. So he throws out a little bit of fire at him. Ishiki just bursts straight through it, but he is shocked that Kawaki has actually used some ninjutsu, and Naruto sees this and is kind of like, oh, this is interesting. So Ishiki grabs Kawaki in basically sort of like a hug pose, and we get an interesting back and forth here. What are you doing? You think you're a ninja now? And Kawaki confirms this. Lord Seventh took me on as his student. He said I have a knack for it. And he's just like, you can't become a ninja. You shall become nothing else either, other than a life to be snuffed out to become my vessel. And he taught me some other things too. I was empty, but he gave me a reason to live. To what end? Thanks to that right hand he gave you, I found you, and thanks to the affection he gave you, you let yourself be caught. That's reality. And so obviously that's the name of the title, but it'll come back around in just a second. So Kawaki's like, you don't understand a thing. A world without Lord Seventh has no worth for me. I'd rather be dead, that's what I'm saying. You're just a vessel. So he grabs him here, he activates the energy here, he's implanting the karma mark into Kawaki. Naruto is shocked by this. Everyone is like, no, we've lost. This is the one thing we needed to avoid. But as we see Kawaki, the full karma mark pattern comes on him, and he's left standing after it, still with the karma mark, so it's succeeded. And Ishiki just says, and this outcome too is reality. Though you all made my blood go cold a few times. So this was quite a chore to get done ultimately for Ishiki, but he feels he's accomplished it here. Now I can go to sleep worry-free. He begins to crumble apart here, first his finger, then some of his hand, and he's like, it looks like my life has run out. You were so close. I'll give you credit for pushing me this far despite being a lesser species. But at this point, the karma mark just fades away. It just kind of comes off of Kawaki's skin. kind of like it did from before. So it's not just that it's like receding back into itself because it's deactivating, it's just going away. And Ishiki is shocked by this. He begins to freak out at this point. Why is it going away? And a confident Kawaki is just like, mind telling us how much longer you can cling to your existence in seconds, Mr. Otsutsuki? He really freaks out at this point. What have you done? He grabs him by the arm, but his arm like snaps at the wrist and his hand just crumbles away. He slumps to the ground. What's going on? I know I implanted him with karma. And he looks up at Kawaki and sees that there's actually 2 Kawakis. And Kawaki just says, Shadow Doppelganger Jutsu. So this is how he's tricked him. Really, really clever. I love this moment. It's really symbolic. It's perfect with what they've been setting up these last few pages. He values Naruto way more over Ishiki, and he's used Naruto's signature jutsu, the jutsu that represents so much about Naruto, and obviously Naruto has taught him this jutsu. This is how he's outsmarted Ishiki. One of the most simple jutsus that Naruto always gets, tricks villains with. Kawaki has outsmarted potentially like one of the biggest villains we've ever had in the series with it. His desperation in his last few minutes to implant the karma mark again meant he completely miscalculated, I suppose, the level Kawaki was at. That he saw like, oh, all you can do is a weak fire style jutsu. I'm safe. Not realizing that something like this is possible. That who trained Kawaki? Naruto. I wonder what jutsu Naruto will train him with. And just that lack of thought is what ultimately led to Ishiki's defeat here. So the karma mark completely gone. The shadow clone poofs at this point, so it's been deactivated. And Naruto's just like, wow, Kawaki, like, you did it basically. And he just says, seems like you want to say something, not that it matters. You're going to die totally outsmarted and beaten by a mere vessel. So whatever it is, this is your reality. So as Ishiki begins to crumble away, Kawaki finishes the job. He jumps off the little hill he's standing on and just straight through Ishiki's body. It crumbles away. Then he stamps on his eye, which seems to be the last thing left. And Kawaki has seemingly just defeated Ishiki. Sleep all you want, you piece of crap. So Kawaki's foul language, his bad mouth coming back once again. And Naruto's impressed by this. What a shocker, a shadow doppelganger. But he just says, it's still a work in progress. I can barely make the one. I'm just glad it worked. Sasuke comes over concerned about Naruto and is like, quit evading, Naruto. I'm asking about that power you displayed. The energy expenditure wasn't normal. Are you absolutely sure there isn't some serious risk to using that power? And Naruto's answer is, well, ... And then Kawaki's like, just spill it. And it seems like Naruto is just about to explain, like, how are you, like, okay after using Baryon mode when all of a sudden someone rushes in to attack Sasuke, and it's Boruto under the control of Momoshiki, so Boroshiki, whatever way you want to call him, the karma mark in full activation as far as we've seen, kunai straight to the eye, the Rinnegan eye of Sasuke. It's gone, it's straight through. Everyone is shocked by this. Sasuke, of course, Naruto, Kawaki. Boruto lands on the ground. Sasuke's clutching his eye, and Momoshiki speaks. I never thought you'd actually defeat Ishiki, but good, now you're the only nuisances left. Next chapter, January 20th. So, crazy way to end the chapter there, in that if you take this chapter for full face value and that there's no tricks that they're going to reveal, that like Kawaki actually has the karma mark, he just doesn't realize he made a mistake with the shadow clones or whatever, they have completely changed the way we thought the story was going to go, in the sense that now we know Kawaki has to get implanted with a karma mark. So realistically, if Ishiki is dead, as it seems to be the case, he's been fully defeated and is gone, the only way Kawaki can get a karma mark within the next few chapters, potentially, is from Momoshiki. Now, we don't know if that's actually possible to happen, since I doubt we're going to see Boruto fully transform into Momoshiki and him, like, the karma mark be 100% and him be reborn in Boruto. I don't think that's the way we're going to go. So the question is, with Momoshiki in control, can he actually implant the karma mark in someone else? I don't actually know if that's possible or not. I might need to reread some of the previous chapters where they went more over the rules a little bit more again, but that would be the only way that this can really happen. And what we didn't know back in the first chapter that we thought we knew for the last few chapters was that, oh, well, surely it's Boruto about to transform into Momoshiki facing off against Kawaki about to transform into Ishiki. But now it potentially seems like the dynamic that they're going for is that they both have Momoshiki karma marks, which is kind of crazy to think about, that the character from sort of like the main first arc of Boruto, the Boruto movie arc, his return is actually the really big thing, because he has sort of reappeared here at this moment when Sasuke and Naruto are like out of action and probably permanently diminished in terms of their power levels going forward, in that unless they come up with some immediate solution, the Rinnegan is gone. That's a whole, like, half of Sasuke's power is gone, and most of his top level powers. The Mangekyo Sharingan is still incredibly powerful, but missing the Rinnegan means no Rinne rebirth, so no character can die and be resurrected. And then I'm guessing what they're going to do with Naruto is reveal that it was actually Kurama who has died from the effects of Baryon mode. That would make sense because they know that the tail beasts can never like fully die, so Kurama will be reborn. But I guess they'll have to explain the effect that has, in that, is Naruto still a Jinchuriki at this point? Is like Kurama just gone? Is that considered a tail beast extraction? So is Naruto in danger as a Jinchuriki from that, or what? I'm not sure, but I think either way what they're going to cover is just that Naruto's not as powerful as he once was. That either because Kurama is gone, or his chakra is severely limited at this point, he is not the threat that he once was. And you've done that to both of them. So the two characters who, you know, with a little bit of help from Boruto, defeated Momoshiki the first time, suddenly can't do that anymore. Momoshiki seemingly has won here, because no one else in the world can stand up against him, pretty much. So is this the countdown timer of all of a sudden there'll be two characters who are really good vessels for Momoshiki to have? He can choose either one, because we're going to go into a time skip. And if he resurrects fully, no one can defeat them. Because Naruto and Sasuke are out of action, none of the other members of their generation are strong enough to compete against Otsutsuki. And the one character with, I suppose, the potential to get to that level, Boruto, if they ever go into what the Jogan is about, is one of those people who could potentially become Momoshiki. To me, that's a fantastic plot premise setup of the villain that we thought was defeated in like the first arc is actually the main threat going forward. That could be very cool. But again, they could twist it around on us. Like, what if they do something like Kawaki made a mistake and didn't realize that by dismissing his shadow clone, that the little bit of karma mark that was still left in him actually is transferred into his actual body, so it did actually go through. That feels a little bit cheap, so I don't think they'll do that. I kind of really do feel that Ishiki has just been defeated, and this is the big twist in all of this. That Momoshiki, by also being an Otsutsuki, can effectively fulfill, I suppose, the same role as the leader of Kara as anyone else, because I suppose it leaves like the only other character left is Code, who's the other character who hasn't done anything yet. What's he going to be up to as we go forward? Because obviously, like, Jigen and Ishiki had like promised them all like a wish, but that's not in play anymore. So how's that kind of coming into play? But anyway, the next thing to talk about is ultimately with Boruto himself. What's going to happen to him? Because ultimately they have to defeat Boruto now to get back to like a peaceful situation. And is anyone in this scenario here powerful enough to defeat him? I don't think so, because Kawaki is missing an arm, only knows some basic jutsu. Naruto doesn't seem like he's going to get back up, and if he does, is going to be, I think, just out of action just because of just using Baryon mode. Even if like he recovers, I doubt he's as powerful as he once was, which I think still leaves Sasuke to be the one to do most of the fighting once he recovers from losing an eye. It obviously eliminates a lot of his key abilities, but Momoshiki also has a sort of chakra deficiency, I suppose. He's limited because he's using Boruto's body with what exactly he can do. And Boruto obviously took a bit of a beating just before. So a limited Sasuke versus Boruto with maybe a little bit of backup from like Kawaki maybe getting involved, Naruto doing something or other. This actually seems like a really interesting fight to see where they go with it in terms of I'm almost suspecting at this point, like, is Boruto going to kill Sasuke in all of this? But Sasuke will be the one to maybe give Boruto the scar that he gets, because that's what we see visually with Boruto in the first chapter, is that he has a scar on his Jogan eye. So on the side where he has the sort of karma mark going up, he has a scar that clearly means, I suppose, Sasuke cut Boruto's eye at some point or whatever. The scar also goes up onto Boruto's headband, which you can see in this scene he's wearing, but he's wearing it around his neck, not on his forehead. So I'm guessing what they're going to do is Boruto will fight against Momoshiki for control over his body, and he will put the headband back on at one point. And that might be like the distraction needed for someone to deliver some sort of a blow against him, which I guess will be... I'm guessing Sasuke will be the one to do the cut along the eye. And maybe that Sasuke will die after like Momoshiki takes back over and kills Sasuke or something like that. Again, like, you have to set up like, where is Naruto sort of quote unquote sent in the aftermath of this? I don't know. And then who actually like takes out Momoshiki? I don't know. It almost feels like the way you have to do this is that, you know, one of them sacrifices themselves. Naruto's completely out of action, and in a distraction moment, like Kawaki like knocks out Boruto. I don't know. It's tough. I do feel like you probably have to have the Jogan come into play to be the thing to almost like scare Momoshiki off, because if he does implant the karma mark into Kawaki, the question is, why wouldn't he just like reincarnate into Boruto the second it's done? Because they've teased now that the karma mark is almost complete within Boruto, because of, I suppose, how far along he's used that ability now at this stage. So I'm guessing the Jogan is going to have to come into play to be the thing that fends that off, to make Momoshiki realize that he has to have another vessel, because the Jogan is always going to get in the way with Boruto, but maybe he can potentially get that body. And of course, if Kawaki is a good enough vessel for Boruto, and is a good enough vessel for Ishiki, then of course Momoshiki is going to consider that as well. One specifically designed to be good for an Otsutsuki, why not? And then he has the choice of whichever one he wants to go with. That's the kind of interesting thing. But yeah, I suppose the big question just is, how do we defeat Boruto Momoshiki in this point? And what does that even look like? My guess just has to be that they knock him out. And that is going to be a tough ask, given the situation everyone's in. And like, once they calm Boruto down, Momoshiki doesn't have control once again. That you have to push Boruto to near death to allow Momoshiki to take over. So I think that's probably the way you have to go. But yeah, like, there's still a question of like, you know, do they kill any of these characters, and, you know, the specifics of how it all happens. But yeah, the key points are going to be Boruto's scar on his eye. Kawaki has to get a karma mark, which seemingly is going to come from Boruto. And then, what's the situation with Boruto and Sasuke? with Naruto and Sasuke. I think they have to explain what Baryon did, which at this point, given that Naruto seems relatively able to move around even though he's more or less unconscious on the ground, it doesn't feel like they're presenting that Naruto himself is close to death. So I'm thinking it will be something with Kurama. And then Sasuke, because of the foreshadowing going into this, where they literally discussed the situation if Boruto went into this mode, Sasuke is going to be the one to have to fight. How is that going to go? And I have a feeling we might be seeing the end of Sasuke at some point in the next few chapters, which that's going to be big depending on how they do it, because I think most people are thinking that they probably are going down the road where Kashin Koji will come back into play and potentially be the one who trains Boruto, which would mean Sasuke potentially has to die. And obviously, like we've just discussed before in these reviews, the effect that would have is that Boruto is going to feel so responsible for the death of one of his teachers and someone he looks up to so much. Sarada, it's going to affect his relationship with Sarada, that Boruto is partly responsible for the death of Sasuke, and just how she reacts going forward to the fact that, you know, Naruto as the Hokage she looks up to is like diminished going forward and her father is gone. That's a big impact. And if Boruto potentially goes down a darker path because of this, that might affect Mitsuki and how he views Boruto, because to Mitsuki, Boruto is his, you know, son, his guiding light in the sky in a way. So this is going to be key going forward to set up the character of Boruto, as I suppose we go into that Boruto Shippuden time skip coming up within the next few chapters. So that's probably, to me, the main takeaway from this chapter is just like, wow, I did not expect them to make as big moves in this chapter as they actually did. Did anyone predict that Ishiki would actually just be defeated in this chapter, and that Momoshiki would be like the sole, like, you know, winner going forward? I didn't see that, because I thought they would not be able to resist the option to have Momoshiki talk to Ishiki, but they seemingly have done that. And that's a huge thing. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.